Hello and welcome to the Sporticos Football Stories podcast. My name is Craig Hanson and today I'm joined by Ross Kennerley, an Arsenal fan and site expert for Pain in the Arsenal, a Gunners fan site on the Fansided network. Ross was brought up in Sweden, where his obsession with football and Arsenal began. He's now back in the UK, a little closer to the club he loves. I can't wait to talk to Ross today about the old, the new, and everything in between on the Sporticos Football Stories podcast. Hey Ross, how you doing?
I'm doing very well indeed, thank you for asking. Very well.
Thanks so much for coming on today. It's going to be a pleasure to speak to you about all things Arsenal. One of the best things about speaking to you as an Arsenal fan is that you've got quite a unique backstory, I think. You're an Englishman, which normally would just make it a pretty easy story, but in your case, it's a little bit different. Could you tell us a bit about your childhood and how you first became an Arsenal fan?
Yeah, so I grew up in Sweden. I moved to Sweden when I was 3 years old. The cold, wet south of Sweden, and my Arsenal sort of passion developed from there. It's the first thing I ever saw. At the time, Freddie Ljungberg. So Freddie Ljungberg was the guy, and of course, when you're watching television and football in Sweden, all the Swedish players are naturally the go-to ones, so they get a lot of airtime on telly. And Freddie was on the telly all the time, and I fell in love with him, and I fell in love with the Arsenal. I fell in love with the football, and it blossomed from there. And I've never looked back. It's the very first minute I ever saw football be kicked. It was Arsenal, and it's never been anything else since.
Could you give us that correct pronunciation of Freddie Ljungberg again? That sounded beautiful.
Fredrik Ljungberg.
Wow. Okay. I don't think I'm going to be able to do that, but it's nice to hear it. So you were growing up watching Arsenal on TV, going to watch your local team there in Sweden in person though sometimes, right? When there wasn't a clash.
Oh yes, Malmö FF. So Malmö, southern Sweden, has a little bridge that connects to Denmark. I don't suppose anyone's watched that crime drama, The Bridge. Yeah, it's set there. So Malmö FF was the team. We used to have some good players back in the days. Obviously, Zlatan started off in Malmö. Jari Littmanen played for Malmö. Afonso Alves, who was then atrocious for Middlesbrough, played for Malmö. Yeah, it was good, and there were some very good years for Malmö. They went for a long patch of not winning anything, and now, in the current climate, we're actually one of the better teams in the division. I think we're top of the table at the moment. So, Malmö is a brilliant football club, incredible support fan base. You see the European support abroad, and you ever realise like, oof, you didn't think, Sweden support the football. Oh yes, it's huge in Sweden. So I watched Malmö all the time. I remember winning the league on the final day of the season in 2003 or 4, I think it was. One of my very early football memories. So I've always Malmö's got a special place in my heart. I'm an Arsenal supporter, but fortunately we avoided them in the Europa League a few years ago.
They're a familiar name for us over here as well. You see them in the Champions League.
They're a big club. Mate. In the Champions League this season. Just lost to Juventus. I think we're playing. Oh, it's someone horrible tonight. It's going to be. They're all horrible games from Malmö this season. But lost to Juventus pretty heavily in the opening, and then we're playing someone else tonight. I think I can't remember. Yeah, Jon Dahl Tomasson is the manager. I don't know if you remember Jon Dahl Tomasson.
Of course, I remember Jon Dahl Tomasson. That's so cool. As if.
He's the manager. Yeah, great. Oh
my god, that's awesome. Okay, well, so you're watching Malmö in person, sometimes Arsenal on TV, etc. But then eventually you got to see your first Arsenal game live. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
2007. So obviously, I'd only been about 13 at the time, and obviously I've been Arsenal forever. And I was Arsenal. My dad took me over to the Riverside Stadium in Middlesbrough, the beautiful, gorgeous Riverside Stadium in the lovely, quaint town of Middlesbrough.
Can you fly from Malmö to Middlesbrough direct?
I think we, no, unfortunately not. But no, we got there. 2007. It was a late game. We won 1-0. Pires scored the only goal, 80-something minute, I think. I remember because Thierry Henry came on about 5 minutes to go, and I think I wept. as a wee 13-year-old boy, I think I wept. It was my first ever game, and then I've been to so many since. I've got my pass now and everything. But I used to fly over all the time. I used to go to London, go watch Arsenal, and go to the Natural History Museum because I was still a little boy. I liked my dinosaurs. And and yeah, so yeah, I think I've seen us play Middlesbrough more than any other team. Weirdly enough.
Is your dad a fan too, or do you just force him to go with you to England all the time?
He was a Malmo FF season ticket holder. He's a member of the club as well. No, I mean he's not actually a Malmo. He's not actually an Arsenal fan like I am. He loves his sport. He loves his horse racing. But yeah, no, he was the Malmo man. He had a Malmo season ticket. He was so yeah, his number one team is actually now Malmo.
Wow. Okay. And yours is Arsenal. And what was it like growing up as a kid in Sweden supporting Arsenal?
Yeah, I mean, there was no 3 p.m. blackout, which was nice.
Oh, yeah, but you got to watch every single game.
I got to watch every single game.
Legally?
Legally, yeah. You know, even when internet wasn't even a thing. When you saw dial-up and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I actually managed to get to watch pretty much every single game, which was brilliant for someone my age, you know, because I've really got to learn football and learn about Arsenal and learn about the team, and it was great. No, it was growing up being an Arsenal fan was great. I mean, I used to get a lot of stick, obviously, going to football training because everyone was Swedish. I was the only English guy going to football training. But no, there's the decent support. I mean, in Sweden generally, people tend to have 2 teams. You'd have your Swedish team, your local team, and then you'd maybe have an English Premier League team you'd follow as well. There's a huge following for football in Scandinavia. You know, everyone's Norway, Finland, everyone's. Even the most remote, random teams. You know, someone will support Carlisle United because they went on there for a work trip, or Peterborough because they used to date a girl from Peterborough. You know, all those kind of random little things like that. So there's a huge following, and obviously with Freddie there as well, made my life easier because I got to watch him all the time.
And Freddie was a big catalyst for you to get into the club. Can you remember a couple of other sort of stars of the time who really caught your eye, who you really fell in love with as a youngster?
I mean, of course, you know, you can't avoid the Henrys and the Bergkamps, and you know they still have an effect on my life even now. But I think there was just something special about Patrick Vieira that he just drew your attention. You know, he was belligerent. He was a brute. He has these big lanky legs. He looked like a centre half, but he was just silk, and he glided across the pitch. It's his technical ability. He was a wonderful, wonderful blend of elegance and just brutality, all into just one young midfielder coming over. Oh, he's 21, I think, when he first joined Arsenal. And then the way he settled into the league, and he owned the Premier League, and he owned Arsenal the way he owned the midfield. It was just something so majestic about him that it was just unavoidable. You couldn't not see it. You couldn't watch it on telly. He was centre of the pitch, and he was centre of your screen every single time. And I think it's special. But there's also the kind of romance of Arsenal have never replaced him. Blah 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 blah. So that attachment stays long. But no, there's something quite glorious about Patrick Vieira that I think I don't think we'll ever see it at Arsenal again. Sadly enough, even if there are iterations of it.
Yeah, well, it's hard to replace. I mean, one of the Premier League greats for sure, one of the greats of the game. Don't come along every week, so
the Arsenal teams I watched growing up, you know, they were all great, likeable people. Fortunately.
Well, I'm catching you at a good time right now because of the amazing North London derby that you had the other day. So I'm sure you're in high spirits after that. But what was it like following North London derbies from afar as a kid? How soon were you able to pick up sort of the importance and the intensity of that tie?
So early on for me, being abroad, you understood that they were rivals. You understood that they were a team you weren't supposed to like. But at the same time, they were never really relevant because Arsenal were always better than Tottenham. We were always better than Spurs. You know, I mean, Robert Pires never lost a game to Tottenham. So my hatred, if you like, was mainly directed towards Manchester United. I did not like Manchester United, and I still don't particularly like Manchester United. They were the team vying for Arsenal, you know, the early 2000s and around that period of time, and they just naturally had something about them because they were so good, and because Arsenal were also equally good. You just had to loathe them. And obviously, all the Spats and the Keanes and the Vieiras and the Van Nistelrooys and the Kierans and whatnot. And so my disdain was all generally directed towards Man United. I mean, I've since grown. I've moved back to England, I live in London, and I've been there and I've seen it, and I've experienced it, and nothing is better than beating Tottenham. Nothing is better than beating Tottenham. Obviously winning a trophy, but
or finishing above them.
Well, yeah, which hasn't happened for 5 years now, unfortunately, for 5 seasons.
Oh God, has it been that long? That's not good. Maybe this year you could change that.
Well, we are now by goals difference. We are above them in 10th. The last time we finished above them was when they came third in a 2-horse race when Leicester won the league. That was the last time we finished above them. So yeah, some totterings of day would be nice this season, especially if it means that we get Europa League and they get Europa Conference League. God, that would be good.
Yeah, well, I think if anything, last season it was kind of preferable for you. If anything, it was more of a troll that like they qualified for that and you did it. If anything, you got the good end of the stick there.
The only way it could have worked out perfectly was if Everton had beaten City on the final day of the season. They lost 5-0 because then we would have finished above them and we would have not got Conference League, something like that. Yeah. Then hopefully this time it'll be different now. I mean, we have the edge at the moment. All 6 games into the season with our 9 glorious points, we have the edge of them in 10. So
we'll see what happens. When you came along, how much of the glory years did you get to enjoy? Did you come along at a time where you were like halfway through, or did you come in just before? How long had Wenger been there? How much of the really good times were you around for?
So I mean, like the FA Cup final win in 2005 that I mentioned was pretty much one of the sort of first strong memories I think I had. I do remember winning the league at White Hart Lane. I was only 11, but I still remember the goals. I still remember Vieira's deep run, and I do remember that. But I know, in the context of an entire season, I don't think I was quite at the age to fully grasp what it meant. Because winning the league at White Hart Lane is unbelievable, going unbeaten. And I do remember like, why is the trophy gold? But yeah, and those sort of memories, they do come back and go, oh yeah. I feel myself privileged that I was able to actually experience the greatest season in history, of the club in many ways, to a certain degree. Like I don't remember it like I remember a full season or anything, but I look back. You look back at the highlights, you look back at individual games. I remember all of those goals. I remember all those games. So yeah, I kind of came into it more on that time, and then the 2000, the 2006, and obviously when we lost the Champions League final. I remember crying into my bathroom window when Patrick Vieira left for Juventus, and I was in the bathroom mirror, and that was just after 2005. Yeah, so I remember those memories. When I was crying and we lost a player, is when I was like, yeah, I really do hold this very dear to my heart. This is
yeah.
I can't. I'm not getting out of this. There's no way I'm getting out of this. And then yeah, obviously there was the good football years. So we played fabulous football in 2008 and 2009 and whatever. But it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. We made a lot of mistakes during that period, and then we had that long stretch until we went and won the FA Cup again against Hull. And I remember as hard as not winning anything during those years were, obviously for an Arsenal fan, it's a long period without winning anything. It was great football. We played fantastic football. Some of them some of my favourite players in those years. We played some brilliant football to watch.
I always remember that as sort of my university period, 2008, 2011, and a little bit before and a little bit after. And at that point, Arsenal were definitely my favourite team to watch. I think they were most people's second team. Yeah. Just the kind of post tiki taka stuff that was going on. It was just so. I remember that. I vividly remember that Wilshere goal. Remember that goal where
it's Norwich.
There's a bunch of little intricate passes, and then it kind of comes over the top, and you're just like, oh my god, this is better than Barcelona.
Norwich 2014, I think it was. Yeah, it's a stupendous goal.
That sort of, I don't know, 7 or 8 years or whatever, where it was just so good. But coming on to the modern day now, you had all those amazing times, of course. Now things are a little bit, there's ups and downs nowadays.
Ropey.
Yeah, ropey. What's the best thing about being an Arsenal fan today?
Today, 2 days ago. 2 days
Okay.
ago is the answer to that. I'm saying that you come to me at the best time, because if you'd have come to me, 3 games ago, it's a totally different story. It's crazy how
Different conversation for sure.
different conversation. I mean, beating Tottenham 2 days ago, and in the manner we did, even though, to be honest, you take the win, however you take it, it's the best day I've had since we won the FA Cup 2 years ago. Just over a year ago. It's the best day I've had since we won the FA Cup. Pardon me. It's been some really, really horrible times. I mean, I've been writing about Arsenal full time for just over a year, and it's essentially coincided with how dreadful we've been. No, I mean the elation, the joy that just nothing else matters. Even if we were still 10th, 10th in the league, we still lost 3 games already this season. Everything is just forgotten about when you beat Tottenham, and to do it the way we did, it's just changed the mood dramatically. And then when no one's going to sit around and say we've turned a corner, because we haven't, I don't think. We're turning a corner. We haven't turned it, because at the end of the day, you're supposed to beat Burnley, you're supposed to beat Norwich. Tottenham were dreadful as well, but it just feels better, and it's been so sorely needed after some awful months. Last year was, and the problem you have is when anger turns to apathy is when it's a breaking point, and I think a lot of supporters were leaning towards that. And there was even times last season where, or under Emery as well, where we'd lose and I wasn't devastated.
You didn't even care anymore.
And that's the saddest thing of all. That is the worst part. Yeah. I knew we were going to lose. Normally, if we lose, I want to be angry. I want to be sad. I don't want to talk to anyone. I ignore my girlfriend all day, that kind of thing. Yeah. Because I'm miserable. But when you just feel like, oh, that's when it's bad. And that's not the way you want to feel about any football club. It's not the way you want to feel. And unfortunately, we haven't. I think this win against Tottenham changes the landscape. It gives this vision of what Arteta wants, some sort of solid form, if you like, that we can now build on.
Yeah, I thought it looked great in terms of the shape and tactically, and I think they showed, like, on Match of the Day, that the sort of the body language of the two coaches as well, the way Arteta was constantly up, forcing them to press all the time, and Nuno was kind of like dejected. I feel like if they can keep that momentum going with that front four, and now Partey seems to be back, because I think he was, when you signed him, I thought, what a signing, that is such an amazing player. But I think he's had some injury troubles, hasn't really panned out. If he can play consistently and well, and Xhaka can keep his head, then you could have a decent sort of. If he's
even fit, because he's has a nasty looking knee injury actually. I think I'm waiting for the update. We're waiting for something from the club as we speak. But yeah, no, Thomas Partey is a Rolls Royce, man. He's a Champions League football player. The fact that we have Thomas Partey in our team is it's ridiculous. I mean, he missed 14 Premier League games last season. 14, and while it's never a set in stone. We were 6 points off top 4.
Yeah.
Considering how appalling we were. And to have Thomas Partey miss 14 games, he barely even finished the 90 minutes. It's a gigantic. It's transformative. He transforms our midfield. He is an absolute beast. And I'm so glad he's fit.
100%. I think he could be maybe a really important part of something good in the coming months, but we'll have to wait and see. We don't want to get too carried away, of course. Now, I wanted to talk a little bit more about sort of outside of the pitch and just the sort of fan culture and everything like that. So this question is, it's a tricky one, but I thought I had to bring it up talking to an Arsenal fan. So what do you make of AFTV and sort of the reputation that Arsenal fans seem to get nowadays? So I feel like I talk about this with most of the guys that we have on, not about AFTV, but just every club has its sort of identity. And if you hear the name of the club, you have like a kind of connotation with that. If you hear Millwall, you think a certain thing. If you hear Brighton, you think a certain thing. Yeah. And nowadays, when you hear Arsenal, people tend to think a certain thing. There's sort of like a kind of like an identity that's been pushed onto them now from social media and the internet and stuff. what do you make of all that? Do you think it's accurate? Do you think it's an even negative, that connotation, or how do you think Arsenal fans are seen nowadays, and do you think that's fair?
As much as a lot of us do not like to admit it, AFTV paints a very different picture, and it's become sort of Arsenal have lost. Boom! What have AFTV done?
For non-Arsenal fans, it is definitely
yeah.
that. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Of course. Let's go watch some meltdowns. I am not a fan of it. I don't watch it. I don't watch it at all.
I wouldn't either.
While I believe originally, it was not done with any intention of being a damaging influence. It was, I think, it literally started out as, let's interview some fans after the game and see what they think. No harm intended, sort of thing. It isn't that anymore. I haven't watched any of it for so long, but I think there's a lot of overblown reactions that it's trying to stir up a culture of toxicity within the club, within the fans. It doesn't paint the club in a good picture. It doesn't paint the supporters in a good picture. I think it breeds negativity. I haven't met any of them. I don't know anything personally. I don't know what they're like, but if you go to the Arsenal, if you go to the Emirates, and you go stand in the concourse, you have a look around. The feelings of the fans on AFTV are very well known. If you go to the away games, even the home games, AFTV, get out of our club. You hear it saying everywhere. I am not a fan of it. I'm not. I can see why other people are. I can see why a Spurs fan or a Chelsea fan or anyone is going to go, Arsenal just got beaten 3-0 at home to Aston Villa. Let's go see how miserable everyone is. I think it is damaging. And I think they do prey on that negativity because what gets you views, what gets you clicks, what gets you hits. It's
the same across everything, isn't it?
Same way as like TalkSport.
Yeah. Not even just in football, but in every type of facet of life.
In every walk of life.
Yeah. Negativity, clickbait. People want to see anger, meltdowns.
Exactly. And so I don't try and include it in my life. It is unavoidable. I don't try and consider it a part of being Arsenal, an Arsenal fan. I try and distance myself and everything we do from that level of negativity. So at the end of the day, what it is, it's fans giving their opinions, but then there's how you frame it.
Yeah, and how you edit it, how you choose,
which frames you choose to hang up in the living room, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So no, it's not for me.
No, 100%. And I don't particularly watch it myself very much, but again, I see why. I have a lot of friends who are constantly like, you need to watch this video, and after even for a neutral, after a while, it's funny in the beginning, but after a while, it's like, okay, I've seen all these before, meltdown, whatever. It's not really that. I think it's a bit dead, but the interesting thing about it now is kind of like you said, it's almost like it's not really Arsenal fan TV like for Arsenal fans anymore. It's sort of. It's a product for everyone who isn't an Arsenal fan, almost. That's kind of what it is there for, so that everyone else can enjoy the chaos. Yeah, and it's a bit of
it's like a troop, isn't it? There's like a group. I think I don't know, but I think back in the day they used to just interview everyone.
Yeah.
After the game, I wanted to say. Now I feel like as far as I'm aware, it's very much a closed group.
They have special characters, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, basically personalities, whatever. People, with very extremely outgoing views or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not the average fan. Well, the same thing is if you go on social media and you read all the things on social media and Twitter and whatnot, that's not reflective of, of supporters in general.
It's just a sort of extreme kind of bottled version of what every fan base has, really. But coming on to that, how it doesn't really reflect. That's the next thing I wanted to ask you is what is the real identity of Arsenal as a club and the Arsenal fan base? Because I don't know if you listen to the Football Ramble. It's a great podcast. Yeah. I love that show. And Jim Campbell's an Arsenal fan, and I feel like he talks about this sometimes, that the way Arsenal fans are portrayed in AFTV and stuff like that versus what they're really like. And you get this a lot with all different types of stuff. I know as an England fan, I've noticed this, traveling all around, especially in Europe, living in Europe. People always tell me, my colleagues are Polish, and I was in Poland, I was in Warsaw a couple of weeks ago, and they were saying that we have this reputation for like arrogance, that we're like, we think we're the best and everything. And I was like, that is so weird, because I feel like that's the exact opposite of how every England fan feels. I feel like we're the worst thing ever. We're always going to lose. If we win it, even a game, I can't believe it. That's why us getting to finals and stuff, it's so mind-blowing, because it's like...
Yeah.
So it's funny how sometimes the reality is not quite the same as the reputation. What is the reality for an Arsenal fan? Are they really kind of hot-headed, crazy, monsters, or what are they really like?
Through the years, it's very hard, because we had a manager for 22 years, and I think the majority felt that there was maybe a time to change, albeit not on the manner that it did happen. But then I think a lot of it's changed over the last year, because we've not been in stadiums. So we've gone throughout the whole pandemic and not been able to go and watch our club, and you think, last season, how dreadful it was. We broke gosh knows how many records of like losing at home and losing on the trot and whatever. And if you think if we had supporters in the stands, when we went 7 games, it was about winning, losing at home to Burnley and then losing at home to whatever. It's a very different thing. And I think, I'm not sure how much the pandemic has had an impact this time around, but I think the best performers this season for Arsenal have been the fans. They've been sensational. I don't know if that's partially because of, it's been so long, we're coming back to see the football and everything. But I think what a lot of it is down to is that we've built a very likeable team. And it's so important. Obviously, there's been a lot of deadwood in the club that nobody really wants to see anymore. We've had to cancel so many contracts and what have you. But I think now, this entire season, it's been unbelievable how the Arsenal fans have been. Losing 3 games on the spin to start the season, still sending 6,000 up to West Brom on a Wednesday night. Even in the Chelsea defeat, fans were exceptional. Man City away, majority of them stayed all the way through, capped them off. And then at the Tottenham on Sunday, it's probably the best atmosphere, I think, ever. The concourse was buzzing 2 hours before kickoff. Unbelievable. There's this whole idea, this sort of faux image about the Emirates being this place of disdain and anger and all, there's never satisfied, and they'll get on your back and and what it is when it's a bit of a mirage, because any stadium full of supporters watching their team lose, it's not going to be a particularly happy stadium. Especially in England, where fans are it's very moment driven, as opposed to you go abroad and it's just like you sing and you chant all long. We're very moment driven in this country, and
100%. We sing when we're winning, I think. Even down in the lower leagues, I go and watch my local League 2 side, and it's the same thing. They're singing a lot when they're drawing, especially if they're winning. If they go behind, it's deadly silence until something happens.
And I think there's a bit of it's not that different to everywhere else. And Emirates can be quiet. It's not the same stadium as Highbury. It's not got that close in feeling. Even if it's a grand big stadium, but Highbury, you're on top of the players. You're on that touchline. No, I think it's very easy these days to pick holes when you kick a man when you're down, don't you? And Arsenal are a super easy target. We are the whole way through this summer and then to the start of the season, we're the subject of all sorts of sensationalist ideas and clickbait stories and ex-pundits and ex-players coming in and laying it in. And you just got to take it on the chin, because you can't really blame them in a way. We're an easy target. You'd pick holes at Arsenal because they were a good team and now they're not.
Well, that's exactly what I was about to say. When it comes to the other fans, it's, if anything, it's a compliment too, because it's basically whenever a big club is having a complete mare, people love that and they want to see it continue. It's like, when Man United got rid of Fergie and they started going down, the worse they got, the funnier it got, the more everyone loved it. Same thing with Liverpool, Chelsea. People love that,
When Chelsea finished, was it 10th or something?
Yeah, it was amazing. People were like, oh my God, will they really go down? And people were hoping, everyone other than Chelsea fans, how low can they go? Yeah. And with Arsenal, it's kind of been going on for a while, and there's been ups and downs, but it's been kind of gradually getting a bit worse. And because they were a big club, people love that. And I guess in your case, it's a bit different just because there's so much content about it, I guess. It's not just the fans talking about it among themselves. Yeah. It's like, it's out there. But speaking of content, what do you make of this Amazon documentary that's coming around. Do you think it'll be better than the Spurs one? Or?
Oh gosh, you know, there's been a couple of times I've forgotten that it's on, and it's sort of returned to me. I've gone, oh crikey, that's on, isn't it? Yeah, no. I mean, I remembered it was on when we were losing the first 3 games of the season. Yeah, I'm not particularly for it. I just don't think it's helpful at all. I really don't. I mean, you see, I'm sure you've seen as well on the Spurs ones, the Man City ones. I don't think any player wants that many cameras around them all the time. And of course, it's not all the time. You know, they'll be there a few days and whatever, and then they'll pick and choose the best bits. So of course, I mean, Arteta didn't want it. The manager didn't want it. He explicitly said he didn't want it. I think Odegaard's already come out and said he's not a fan of having them cameras around all the time. I just think it'll be great when you're winning. It's not when you're not. And I think it also can paint a false narrative because, you know, like I was saying before, what's going to sell? Well, you know, if they got little snippets and it's all going to be someone fighting, which, you know, let's be honest, 2 players will fight in training all the time. Or what parts will they show? And, you know, we've just beaten Spurs at home. Is that going to be a 10 minutes? Is that going to be a 10-second segment? And then they're going to show? Are they going to show like the whole Man City 5-0 drubbing? Is that going to be a 10-minute one? So I don't know. I mean, look, in a way, I'm going to watch every single episode. Of course, I'm going to be glued to it. I think it's impossible not to want to see it. But I really wish we weren't doing it. I really, really wish we weren't doing it because if it does get, and look, we've won 3 games on the trot, 4 games on the trot in all competitions, and I don't think that's going to be sustainable. So what happens if it goes bad again? You know, I do dread to see what it's like.
Yeah, it's an unnecessary distraction, isn't it? I think, but
yeah, I just don't think, you know, in this season where we really need to not be crap, and we really need to be back in the top 6. You know, having those cameras around to film every moment of the players doing this, is that really going to help? I don't think it's ever going to be helpful, to be honest with you, but I'm still going to watch it. I'm going to be engrossed by it. I'm going to be absolutely engrossed by it. No doubt whatsoever.
I know I definitely will as a neutral.
Yeah.
And we touched on it a little bit earlier when we spoke about Daniel Ek, but how would you sum up sort of the performance of the owners over the recent years, and do you feel that they're doing a good job of representing the club and the fans?
They would do a really good job representing the fans if they ever showed their faces. That would be a good start. No, they don't give a flying toss about this football club. Not at all. They haven't cared since the moment they took over. They will never care. They'll never see it as anything other than we own another football team. We own a soccer team, and it's just money. They. You can look at like all the investments and all those things. That's not even the point. Like the investment side of things isn't. Yeah, well, I mean, it's not come out of their own pockets, but we have spent. You know, they move money around to make money. Basically, is how they do it, and we spent a lot of money this summer. But you want someone to represent your club, to care about your club, to feel like they're involved in the club, and it's not just a sort of side thing. And they're just not. They never have been. Never will be. They never will be. They do not give a toss. And silent. We call him Silent Stan for a reason. You know, Josh comes over every now and then. But I mean, he attends like one meeting a year with the Supporters Trust. They're so out of touch with what it means to people. They don't know. They can say they know, but they don't know. And as well, you know, and the thing is, if you've got an owner who doesn't care, doesn't know what it means, how to do things, at least hire people who do. And they haven't done that. And you know, we've gone through such upheaval in the hierarchy of this club over the last years. It's just unsustainable. You can't keep changing like we have. And then we've just hired a bunch of inexperienced people, and Van Keijsen, Edu, and Arteta. I mean, all 3 of them are vastly inexperienced. And while you know, you get a technical director who's only ever worked for the national team, and there's a Brazilian member of the Brazilian Federation who said, "Oh, good luck to Arsenal having Edu."
That's a good endorsement.
Yeah, you've got the blind leading the blind most of the time, and the problem is, when you're going to make mistakes like the owners do, you have to then hire people who are competent, who will not make mistakes. And while time will tell on Arteta and Edu and Vinay and Tim Lewis and everyone, they will make mistakes because they're new to the job, and you can't afford to have everyone doing that across the board. Arteta's made a whole load of mistakes. Edu has made so many mistakes. Vinay has made so many mistakes with this Super League everything, and there's just I will sit and I will acknowledge and I will accept that we have got distant owners who don't care as long as they hire people who knew what they were doing. They haven't.
Yep, the least that you could ask for.
They are hiring people who are learning what they're doing on the job. So no, I don't like them. I don't like KSC. But then again, what do you say? What if we go and win the FA Cup this year and the money gets us back into Europe? Is anyone going to complain? I'm still going to complain. I'm still going to complain because I want someone who cares. But
yeah, I think that's the thing sometimes that people don't realise as well, that when fans complain about their owners, that you'll hear like classic TalkSport meme, isn't it? That if ever anyone complains about their owners, they'll just say, "Oh, well, look how much money they've spent though. What more do you want? Spend money, whatever." But it's not always about that. Like, as a fan, I'd rather have an owner who not necessarily a fan of the club, a boyhood fan or whatever, but just you can tell that they actually want you to win things. They care about that, even if it's not because they're a fan. It's just because they arrogantly want to win stuff or whatever. Like, whatever they care about the footballing success. That's what they care about. Then that, for me, that's all good. But sometimes they're throwing money at it, but not because they want to win, just because they want to appease you for a bit, and then they'll go back to just not caring. They have no interest in the success on the pitch, do they? And they definitely don't care about the club in terms of its identity or any connection with it.
Well, the best thing about Stan Kroenke, is he came to watch us win the FA Cup in 2015, 14, whatever, 15, 16, whatever. He didn't even know what colour kit we were wearing. He did. He genuinely. We were wearing yellow because we were Villa were wearing the home shirt. He didn't know what colour we were wearing. I mean,
yeah, it's not ideal, is it? It is not ideal for sure. No. It could be better. Well, before we come on to Arteta and Edu in more detail, we're going to take one very quick break, and we're back. So one of the things, not to come back to the. The things that are thrown at Arsenal fans from the sidelines. One of the things that I'm sure you've had a million times now in the kind of banter universe is, you campaigned to get rid of Wenger for so long. You hounded him out the club. You treated him horribly, you fans. And now look where you are. Now you wish you had him back, don't you? Do you think there's any truth in that? Did the majority of fans sort of hound Wenger out? Was it Wenger's time to go? I mean, what do you make of the whole sort of, in hindsight now, Wenger leaving and the subsequent years? I
still firmly believe it was the right time to go. Actually, no, I don't think it was the right time to go. I think he should have gone earlier. I think he should have gone when we won the FA Cup. To be honest, leave on an absolute high. And the thing is, like, he didn't leave the squad in the very best of nick. To be honest with you, he was wrongly hounded out. The way he was treated was horrible. It was disgraceful from some. But I do believe it was time to change. He tried to change the way the team was. He'd gone from different systems, and he bought some players that weren't great. I mean, the man demanded an incredible job, and we spent no money, and we got top four every year, and it's just cannot. To get what he did from the players he had was quite remarkable. I mean, it really is quite remarkable. We had some garbage in that team, and we were still making top four.
Yeah. Was that sort of during the years when you couldn't really get anyone because of the stadium and the money?
Yeah, exactly. We had the stadiums built. We had to sell our players, the best ones. I mean, the problem we had was we never. As a history, Arsenal, we don't sell at the right time. We don't sell when they are in top. We're too nervous. We don't risk to take the money when it's given to us. And this is changing now. Obviously, Emery came in. He was the wrong appointment.
What do you make of Emery? Because there's some people who. I think it's a simplistic thing to do, but that classic thing that if a club sacks a manager and then the next season they don't finish above where they did, it's like, oh, well, what's the point? You got rid of Mourinho, Spurs, and now look where you are. You should have kept him. There's people that will say the same thing about Emery, that it kind of sort of, you were always getting in the Champions League with Wenger, and you got rid of him, and then you got Emery. At least he was keeping you in the Europa League. Got rid of him. Now you can't even get in the Europa League. I mean, is there any truth in that? I mean, what do you think of Emery? I mean, a lot of non-Arsenal fans were sort of, when they won the Europa League, Villarreal, they were sort of like, oh, look, he's getting his revenge on English football, the way he was treated by the journalists and the fans and stuff. I mean, again, what do you make of all that? Do you think Emery was unfairly treated? How would you sum up the job he did in hindsight?
So I'm in the belief that there are no bad players; they're just bad fits, and I think the same applies to managers. I don't necessarily think there are any. I mean, there's some terrible coaches, but I don't think there's necessarily any bad managers. I mean, Emery does get some respite because the way things were handled at Arsenal time. He was the coach. He had very little say in. He was overruled on decisions for players and whatnot. But he was a total mess. It was a total mess, and I think one of the things was when he first came in, we went on a 22-game unbeaten run. And I think that's got to be the worst unbeaten run in the history of modern football because we were crap. It was entirely unsustainable. I mean, we were so lucky. Like I will happily admit, we got some good results on the way and we did some play well, but we were getting outshot every game. There was some bizarre calls with the team and how we played and everything, and then there was a spell. It went well, We'd score a lot of goals. There was a point where we scored a lot of goals, and he managed to even make Aubameyang work in Lacazette, and the same thing for brief spells. And then, but it never felt like it was building towards anything. It always felt like it would work this time. Would it work next week? I don't think so. Obviously, we all know about the communication issues. So his English wasn't fantastic, and he couldn't really get his ideas across the players, but the players didn't know what they were doing. They didn't, it got to the point they didn't know what they were doing on the pitch. He came in and one of the first things he said was, "I'd rather win 5-4 than 1-0." And it basically looked like that most of the time. It mostly looked like, he was playing we know he's playing Lucas Torreira holding midfielder as attacking mid, and then there's some insane decisions. I mean, in the 18-19 season, we were coming towards getting top four. We only had to beat Palace and Brighton, and absolutely easy running at the end of the season. And then we played Palace at home before we were playing in the Europa League, and then he played like Mavropanos and he played Carl Jenkinson. And he played an absolutely bizarre team. We lost 3-2, and we threw. And then we drew with Brighton at home, and we threw away the top four, and it was there. And then the Europa League final, we were falling, and it kind of felt like this is a sinking ship on its descent now. What's the point? This is not working. And then start the next season, we actually went on I think we were in the top four after 5 or 6 games, and it was unsustainable. We scraped wins against like Bournemouth at home, and it's like this is not going to work. And then I think for a lot of people, the clincher was when we played Watford at home. Watford away, sorry, Vicarage Road. We were 2-0 up, and we drew the game 2-2, and we conceded 25 shots on goal. Something unbelievable. It was outrageous. And this is not going to work. I mean, the man is clearly a good coach. He's a fantastic coach. I mean, he's won the Europa League 3-4 times now, and with different clubs. I mean, it's really like he knows what he just was not the right fit for Arsenal. I don't think he was a fit for English football in general, to be honest. I mean, he's flourishing in Spain. It was we left it too long on Emery. We left it too long. It should have gone a lot sooner. But then we let him buy a bunch of players who now we've tried to get rid of last. Yeah, so we bought some dross.
Yeah, well, that brings us on to the $1 million question, which is Mikel Arteta. First of all, what did you think when he came in? How optimistic were you when you first heard the news of the appointment? And is he the right man for the job?
I was for it. I was for it. Emery obviously much more richly experienced, but I was for Arteta. I felt this was the right step because, and this is something we'll come back to about the fans. Like the perception of fans is the fans now are on board with the idea that we need to change. We had to do a rebuild. We had to really go top from the bottom up, and we had to really just And what's the best way to do rebuild? You do rebuild with someone who knows the club, sort of young coach who's worked under the very best, and was an idea. And I was for the idea. I was for the appointment. We knew it was going to take time. The issue was that we didn't have experience above him, which is obviously, it comes down with like Edu and whatnot. We haven't had the experience above him. For a manager that young who is going to make mistakes, you have to make sure there is someone with experience, but like a director of football person who can just put a hand on his shoulder and go, you know what, Mikel, maybe not this time. Don't think he's a good player. Don't think you should go with that system, or whatever. Just the little things, mistakes that he would make, or maybe don't freeze him out, etc., etc. Obviously, won the FA Cup. Fantastic. We played not in any way in a normal Arsenal way. We went for three at the back, etc. He's changed systems so many times now as a manager. He's also made an awful lot of mistakes. The club made a mistake, making him manager.
Mm-hmm.
From the head coach to the manager was a big mistake. Far too soon. Look, yeah, I mean, you can support the man, back the man, and feel he's the right man to do the job. It was too soon to do that. You can't be giving him that level of responsibility already. It's no good for him.
Yeah, and where does that leave Edu? I mean, doesn't that mean he's kind of taking Edu's job as well?
Barbecues, cigars. Oh no, I mean Edu still does the. He's still in. Arteta's like, I need a player. Edu's like, okay, let's go find him. And then we've got Richard Garlick dealing with the contracts and sort of things. So Edu is still there, and and as we found out, sort of when he spoke after this summer window, basically the idea of building young, completely gutting, 23-year-olds and under, was Edu pretty much his sort of leading charge. That's what he said it is. We had this idea, we've told Mikel, and Mikel was like, well, yeah. Arteta was like, yeah, okay, I'm on board with it. I think Arteta would have liked a few more experienced players, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
I think he would have liked another Rolls Royce in midfield. I think he would have liked another top striker or whatever. But no, I think the manager's made an awful lot of mistakes. I think he will continue to make mistakes.
But you expect that, right?
Yeah, no, I think it's a given. I think he's been dealt a dreadful hand. I mean, he's had to deal with an awful lot. He's inherited some utter dross. We've had all this unrest in the camp. He's had to. Players moved on. I mean, the amount of upheaval is like 17 players in the summer, or like players gone, new contracts and whatnot, and he's had to build his own team. And obviously now we're finally seeing. We've said all along, you have to give him a full complement of players. He's got a full team available. He's got his team. His stamp is absolutely on this football team. It is his team. We bought 6 players over the summer. All of them were on the pitch in the end against Spurs. His ideas, the way he wants to build our attacks, the way he wants us to press, the way he wants us to see matches, like the connection he's building with the fans, the cultural changes. It is all there, but not. And there is so much mitigation because the coronavirus and the crap in players he's inherited, and the pressure he's put onto him by the hierarchy and the lack of experience above him. That's over now. I think that is all gone. It is purely now results. I like what I'm seeing. I do like what I'm seeing. Like I said to you earlier, we have not turned a corner. We are turning a corner. The indicators are wrong.
Yeah,
the indicators are wrong. And I think this next run, so we've got Brighton next, and then we take an international break, then Palace and whatnot. That will determine it for me.
Yeah. What do you make of the transfer activity then in the summer? Because I know you got a lot of stick again from the sidelines for, you spent a lot of money, but who have you really brought in? Yeah. But again, I guess it's going with this policy of sort of young players with potential, and on the evidence of the other night, granted Spurs were appalling. I felt like Arsenal did play very well, and I felt like even against a good team, that team against Man City wouldn't have lost. Was it 5-0, I think, in the game they got pummeled? That wouldn't have happened, I don't think, if that performance wouldn't have happened that way. So what do you make of it? What do you make of Tomiyasu, Ramsdale, all these guys that have been brought in?
It's funny because everyone was saying, I'm not sure I'm on board, trying to explain how what we're doing, the strategy, buying young players, and like Gary Neville's, I can't see what the strategy is. The strategy is very clear. The fans, I would think, pretty much universally are all on board with it. We know we needed this. We for too long we've had players. We brought in players who come in, no resale value, they leave for nothing, have to cancel the contracts. Willian,
David Luiz.
David Luiz, Socrates,
Oh yeah,
Mustafis, all of these, Mustafi, Kolasinac is still here, all these players, and this has been so long overdue. I'm absolutely for it. I would like another midfielder. I would have liked a more experienced central midfielder, especially now because Granit Xhaka is injured. Look, I'm absolutely for it. But any plan like this, any strategy where you are investing so heavily in youth, we had two 21s, two 22s, two 23-year-olds, while you may not see the fruits of those labour for another 2 years potentially, because when they're all going to try and peak at the same time. It's how we should do it. It all comes down to talent ID. It doesn't matter if you have to wait 2 years for these players to be good or not, or if they're going to be good now. If they're not good, they're not good. And
they'll never be good.
and Edu's talent ID is not exactly great. He's not our best of luck, and so Arteta's some question marks over there as well. Obviously, like things like Willian, but they're looking good. They're looking good, and we've got some very specific players. I mean, Tomiyasu is a specific inverted fullback. Plays in the back three when we build. He wins every ball. It's every header. He's won like more aerial duels than anyone since he started playing for Arsenal. Ramsdale, big question marks. I was thinking, well, we're buying a goalkeeper who's not an upgrade on no, and we're paying 30 million. He's going to be on the bench all season. Held my hands up. I am so happy to be wrong on that. He has been fantastic since he's come in. He's changed the feeling. The way he communicates, the way he talks, the way he commands his box is brilliant. He's still early days, but he looks like, and the fact we're playing him now. He costs 30 million. Play him. Don't put him on the bench for a season. I think Ben White, talk about overpaying, and I think was probably have. Let's be honest, but
yeah, a little bit. But
looks great. Another English centre half, top ball player, progressor. I think he complements Gabriel very well. Then you look at Sambi Lokonga. I love Sambi Lokonga. He's brilliant. He's on the ball. He's wonderful. He still needs to work on his spatial awareness. I think he still worries about. He doesn't track his deep runners as well. But
could we see him and Partey in the coming weeks together?
I think we are going to see something like that. I mean, I still don't know. I mean, for all I know, Xhaka might be out for the season now. I'm not sure.
Oh God, I didn't know it was that serious.
Oh, it looked bad. I mean, I'm not sure, but we'll have to wait and see. I think we'll see. I think he's brilliant. He's so good. This lad is top draw. He's got a wonderful range of pass, and I love the way he can sort of build his little body feints and drops. It's brilliant. Martin Odegaard is silk on soil. I was so for that. I mean, 30 million is a steal. I really
absolutely.
Think that. You think about we were paying maybe look at 70 million for James Maddison. Martin Odegaard is top draw. And if these players can be playing like they are now at the moment, all at 22, 23, it's really, really positive. It's really, really positive. They are going to have ups and downs. They are going to have dips in form. But in the time we've seen them together on the pitch, I mean, I think that not only is it one new player in a new team, it's 6 new players in a new team. I think they're looking great. I like the look of these young players. I can see what we're building for a change. I can see what we're trying to do, and I think so. And the fans can too. And it's not just about the players, how the qualities. They're very likable characters. Tomiyasu gets you off your seat. He's such a lovely bloke, and the way he conducts himself on the pitch, the way he's so aggressive in the challenge, it gets the fans going. And Ramsdale has such a rapport with the supporters. He's already like a cult hero.
Yeah, and even if it goes wrong, you'd rather see them try something positive like that.
No, I mean, if they turn out rubbish, then you can sell them because there's always a market for young players.
Exactly.
There's always a market for young players, and that's the thing. He's like Matteo Guendouzi. We got Matteo Guendouzi. It didn't work. There was obviously his attitude problems and whatnot. Yeah, we didn't sell him for much, but still, there's still a market for young players. It doesn't matter how. It doesn't matter, and that is what the team is finally starting to build towards. We're finally starting to build towards a sustainable model of young players who we can either sell on in a few years or who can actually be the centre of this club. And you look at people like Odegaard, possible captain material. I mean, obviously that should be Kieran Tierney anyway. But these are players who will grow and they will develop, and they are the right profiles for what the style of football that Arteta wants to play. They're the right players to build a connection with the supporters as well. Yeah, I'm all for the what we've done over the summer. I still believe we are short in a few positions, and obviously you're never going to do everything in one summer. It's impossible. But no, I'm very very happy with the direction, and I think the supporters are too, and I think it shows. I think that's why we're seeing such a great atmosphere this season. You know, the connection with the fans and the players is haven't seen that for a long time.
Yeah, you get that with young players as well. I think it's a lot easier to build that sort of connection when you're dealing with young players. But you mentioned all those players who come in, and then also we got Tierney, Saka, Smith Rowe. It's a lot of unbelievably talented young players, pretty much the full 11 other than Aubameyang, pretty much, and Partey. But you touched on this before. Is there any concern that there's a tad too little experience in there? Could you do with maybe one or two old heads? Or do you think they'll be all right, the young lads?
Yeah, it was that thing last season. Like, you know, we're playing Smith Rowe and Saka, and you know, Arsenal keep playing the young players. We're not playing our young players. We're playing our best players.
Yeah, exactly.
We're playing our best players. They are our best players, and I mean, Emil and, you know, Bukayo, Saka and Smith Rowe, they were leaders in a different way last season. Because they were carrying the team. They were burdening this entire team, and they were, you know, they had them all on the shoulders, and they were leaders in their own right. There is a lack. I mean, I think the goal is that the ones we brought in can grow into that. Is Xhaka the right leader? You know, you talk always on the pitch. We don't know what he's like off the pitch, but everyone seems to adore him. We do need more. I think we do. I think the thing is, midfield and strikers is the key ones, because, I mean, the back five's settled now. It's a very young back five, and Tierney's the oldest, and he's 24. Central midfield Partey is the leader. He's a leader until he's 28. Xhaka is also 28, and he's 29 now, and, you know, he's considered as the experienced leader. Then you come to someone like AFCON, African Cup of Nations, and we're losing Partey, we're losing Pepe, who even Pepe now he's 26. He's technically he's one of the experienced players. Aubameyang's going, and then he's going. It is. You wonder how it's going to be. I mean, but then again, Sambi Lokonga was captain at Anderlecht. Martin Odegaard was captain of Norway. I mean, I think he's trying to build the leaders in a different way. And to be honest, I think he probably wouldn't mind doing the Emery thing, right? when we had a vote and we had like five. We had a group of leaders team.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think Arteta would mind that. To be honest, I think he likes having, you know, the odd experience, but I think he wants it spread out. He wants it spread out. It's not we're not the Vieiras anymore. We don't have those kind of players. I would have liked us to buy a proper Rolls Royce, big midfielder, you know, experienced central midfielder, which we will do in like next summer, potentially even January. A new striker, because we're going to lose Lacazette, Eddie and Nketiah, and then Aubameyang's only got a year left, so we're getting a new striker. I think that's where we'll try and build a sort of core. By which time Gabriel will be 24, Ben White will be 24. It is the one part of the squad you think, okay, yeah, is it lacking a bit? Because the leaders we have, are they really like the leaders you want? Like, I mean, Eddie mentioned Bernd Leno, who's 29, he's a goalkeeper. I don't think he doesn't want to be here anymore. Xhaka, Partey, Lacazette, a lot of them are leaving. So they will need replacing, yeah.
I guess it's difficult to say at this early stage, but how do you think you'll get on come the end of the season, having said everything that we've said today? What would represent success for the team? What would you be over the moon with?
Realistically, I mean, I before the season started, I said we'd finish 7th. I'm not trying not to get too carried away with, you know, the last couple of weeks. It's top 6. I mean, we can't. I don't think we can. The absolute limit for me is 5th. I don't think you can realistically sit and say Arsenal should finish higher than 5th, and that I think is a push. I think if 6th was offered on a plate now, 6th and say like an FA Cup or even a League Cup, because I haven't won the League Cup since 1993. Bite your hand off. I think you have to be realistic. I think you have to be realistic as much as, because the top 4 are too good. You know, they're too good. I know we're above Leicester, but, you know, they're always going to come out. West Ham are in fantastic form.
Everton under Rafa.
Yeah, this is as strong as Premier League is, I think.
Really tough.
You ever seen it? And it's as strong a Premier League as you've ever seen it. And, you know, Spurs and Arsenal are rubbish. So
it's tough. You got 10 teams really. The top 10, it's unbelievable. I mean, I know Leeds are having a bit of a mare, but if they can sort themselves out, and Brentford have come up like last year's Leeds, you wouldn't be surprised to see them finish in 9th or 10th. It's so hard to get in the Europa League, I think.
Which is why I think, look, 6th. I think we have to be realistic. If 6 was offered to me now, I'd take it. I would. I'm not going to sit and go fifth, top four. Let's be honest, if it's fifth or sixth, it doesn't really matter. It's still the Europa League at the end of the day. It only really matters if you finish above Tottenham. So if we can get sixth, yeah, I'll take that. And I think now we've seen as well, because Arteta's he's going ham in the cups. You know, he never heavily rotated for the domestic cups, and he's really going for it in the League Cup. Obviously, of the two, the League Cup and FA Cup, you'd rather win the FA Cup because you get automatic Europa League qualification. But I think he wants to win a trophy, and I think why not? We haven't got Europe this season. If we can go out and win a League Cup, absolutely all for it. Absolutely all for it. We lost the last 3 finals we've been to in the Carabao Cup, League Cup. So yeah, I think I said it from the start of 7th. I wanted us to pip 6th. Do I think we can get 6th? I think we can get 6th. I do. I still think this sterner tests will come. If you'd come to me in a couple of weeks' time and play multiple more games, I might be different, because we should have beaten Norwich. We should beat Norwich. We should beat Burnley. We should beat a dreadful Tottenham team. And while we can see the corner being turned, yes, we're not there yet.
Optimism, but I guess healthy caution.
I'd take 6th, and I'd take a trophy.
I hear you. But okay, so before we come on to our little quiz that we like to end the show with every week,
brilliant.
We're going to take one more very quick break. And we're back. So we like to end every show with each fan with a little something we like to call "Do You Know Your Heroes?" And in it, I'm gonna ask you for things like records. It's all pretty basic stuff. Everyone always gets about it, and then everyone pretty much does fine with it in the end, or at least in the recent weeks it's been like that. In the beginning it seemed like it was stumbling everyone, but now the last few weeks it's been getting easy.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get straight into it. There's 8 questions. No pressure, but the guy last week from Sunderland got all 8. So,
did it? Oh, right. Oh, great.
Pressure's on. How many English top flight titles have Arsenal won, including the old First Division and the modern day Premier League?
13.
Correct. Question 2. Which player has made the most league appearances in the history of the club?
David O'Leary.
Very nice. You get the point, but do you happen to know how many? Just out of interest?
676.
Apparently it's 558. But but that's because league. Sorry, you're doing all comps, aren't you?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. Yeah. Let's go.
Yeah. So between 1975 and 1993 in the league, he made 558. I didn't know that. Unbelievable. I didn't actually know that.
Yeah, mate.
He had such a
no one ever
heritage.
really associates David O'Leary with Arsenal, unless you're obviously an Arsenal fan.
Yeah, that's the thing. If you're not an Arsenal fan, obviously I just think of him as
Villa manager,
or a Leeds guy, Villa guy. I had no idea he had this lineage with Arsenal. He's like a legend there. It's crazy. Anyway, who was the youngest ever player to make a first team appearance for the club in any competition? Not the Premier League, in any competition.
Oh, I should know this. And there's like 8 it could be.
No, there's so many young wonder kids that have come through.
In any competition, let's go with. Oh, Sod, I know. It was again. Oh no, it is as well. No, I'm going to pass, because otherwise I'll give an answer and I'll be really miffed about it.
Okay, well, there are a few that you could have thought it would be, definitely, but apparently it's Cesc Fabregas, who 16 years and 177 days.
I thought it was a trick question.
Okay.
So I was like, Cesc Fabregas is the obvious one. It was obviously Cesc, isn't it? He did it in a cup game.
I think it's because Theo was the youngest in the Premier League, maybe still, or something like that when I was doing the research. But I had to make sure I was clear on that, because
no, you're absolutely right. I just thought it can't be Fabregas. Too obvious. No.
It was a League Cup game against Rotherham United. Yeah, in 2003. Yeah. Cesc is still the youngest player to have done that. Which player has won the most international caps while playing for Arsenal?
So, over their career, or while they've been at Arsenal?
Only at Arsenal. So, just not it should probably. It isn't really much of a clue, but this particular guy, for example, has 123 in total. But less of a certain amount of those he earned at Arsenal, and that's the most anyone's ever done, apparently.
Well, it's obviously someone who's been at Arsenal for a very long time.
Yeah, I think quite. Yeah, it's all relative, but yeah, I mean, a legend for sure. Was there loads of time.
Because Lucas Podolski got a heck of a lot of international caps for Germany. I think he was on 100%, but obviously he was only at Arsenal for a few years, so he wouldn't have got them all during that time.
Let's just say a bigger legend than that.
Oh yeah.
Proper. Podolski is, he's a great player, but this guy's royalty.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose I'm thinking it's one of the French lads. It's either Patrick or it's Thierry. I'll say Thierry, probably.
Correct.
Yeah.
3 out of 4, very good. Thierry Henry has made 123 appearances for France, but 81 of those he made while an Arsenal player, and that's actually the record as an Arsenal player, apparently.
Good 8 years, 9 years, so yeah.
This one is really tricky. Well, I guess maybe for an Arsenal fan it's easy, actually, but for me I would definitely wouldn't know it. In which year did the first match at the Emirates Stadium take place?
It was the 06-07 season. So would it have been 06?
It was 2006 on the 22nd of July. It was Dennis Bergkamp's testimonial, apparently.
First competitive game with Aston Villa, yeah.
First competitive game would have been Aston Villa. First.
We played Milan. We played Milan Legends. Was that what we played? Dennis's bet.
I think it was this Ajax.
Ajax, yeah, of course.
Against Ajax, yeah. Because I guess he played for them probably before he came to you. I don't remember. On which player did Arsenal spend their record transfer fee? A little bit more contemporary now.
Nico Pepe.
Correct. Do you happen to know how much it was?
72 million.
Very nice. From
Great
Lille
British pounds.
in August 2019. So we are 5 out of 6 so far, doing very well indeed. Who was or were the last players to win the World Cup while playing for Arsenal?
So we're known in the French squad. We had. Was it Mesut Ozil?
That's one. 2 more.
So Per Mertesacker and
Correct.
Shkodran Mustafi. Mustafi, Mertesacker, and
I think Mustafi came to you after that World Cup because he impressed there. The third one was the guy you mentioned earlier, Podolski. Very good.
Podolski, yeah.
Per Mertesacker.
Will you give me that one?
No, of course, don't worry. I'll give you that one.
Okay.
Mertesacker, Ozil, and Lucas Podolski won the World Cup for Germany at Brazil 2014. And finally, to make it 7 out of 8, apart from England, which nationality is most represented in the current Arsenal first team squad, not including people who are out on loan? So who's in the actual first team squad? Obviously, the most represented country is England, but then after that, there's 2 countries that are joint with the most number of players. Brazil is one. Do you know the other one? Well, first of all, who are the Brazilians?
Gabriel Martinelli.
Correct. That's it. There's 2. There's another country that has 2.
Yeah. No.
Might be hard to remember because they're not exactly the 2 most sort of. I don't know, the best players in the squad. They're not bad players, but
it's not Spanish because Bellerin's not there.
This one's always a tough one.
As well as Brazil, it's not Norwegian, it's not Japanese, Portuguese. Cedric and Nuno. Yeah.
Correct. Very good. We got the 2 Brazilians and 2 Portuguese. It's a kind of small amount. Normally you'll have usually it's English when we do this, and then the second one you might have a country where there'll be like a contingent of 4 or even 5.
Well,
but with Arsenal,
a while ago, it'd just been French. There'd been about 8 French.
Yeah,
people.
exactly. You would have expected something like that, but no, it's very mixed. It's either English or sort of one mixture from from everywhere, and then apart from these Brazilians and Portuguese, but. That gives you 7 out of 8.
Can't believe I didn't say Cesc. I'm so gutted.
Don't worry, it's a mighty performance.
Can't believe I didn't say Cesc. It's such an obvious one as well. Oh dear.
I still think it's a mighty performance from you. I'd like to thank you so much for coming on.
Oh,
it's been
pleasure.
An absolute
Thank you ever
pleasure.
so much.
Before you go, though, would you like to let the listeners know where they can read your stuff or listen to your stuff or anything that you're putting out there, Pain in the Arsenal or otherwise?
Yeah, so if anyone likes to hear people quibble about Arsenal, I'm sure someone does every now and then, come check us out on paininthearsenal.com. Twitter is Pain in the Arsenal, but Pain in Arsenal. It's really annoying. I'm sorry about that. My Twitter is @Swedish Ross. We do post-match content, pre-match content, opinion pieces, lists, a lot of it, do all that. So yeah, please come and check it out whenever you get the chance. Thank you.
Check that out, guys. Make sure you go over and give Ross some love. Thanks again, Ross, so much for coming on.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Good luck to you and Arsenal for the season. Hopefully you'll be celebrating come May. Thanks so much for listening to the Sporticos Football Stories podcast. Please like, share, and leave positive reviews wherever you listen. We really, really appreciate that. Also, if you enjoyed today's episode, please tell a friend online or offline. That really helps a small podcast like ours to grow organically. Head to sporticos.com for live streams, data, statistics, and much more from the world of football. You can also follow us on Twitter at sporticos.com. You can follow myself at Craig Sporticos. We would also love to read out the thoughts and questions of our listeners, so please feel free to tweet those to me anytime or send us an email to show@sporticos.com with your opinions or your questions, and we'll get to those on the next episode. Thanks again so much to Ross for coming on to speak to us today. Thanks so much to you for listening, and see you on the next episode of the Sporticos Football Stories podcast.